So you will see today's agenda is up on your screen in front of you. And at this point in time, I wanted to turn it over to my colleague Rob from Radboud University to talk a little bit more about the Collaboration Fund and the results from 2021 and 2022. Rob?
Thank you very much, Cindy. Good morning, everyone in London, Ontario, and good afternoon to everyone logging in from Nijmegen or any other place in the world. My name is Rob van Leeuwen. I am at Radboud University, the coordinator of the Radboud-Western Collaboration Fund. And I'm very happy to see a really nice size of group today with us for this session on the third round of the Collaboration Fund, and also a Q&A for you to share any question that you may have. A little bit of the history of what was before, basically why we started to collaborate through this fund is, in very general, we would like to connect more staff members between Western University and Radboud University. As there were already quite some ties, and based on the ties, both universities decided that it was very suitable to set up a specific collaboration fund to support new innovative collaborations in the field of research and education. At Radboud University, we had similar experience with the University of Glasgow, and based on that experience, we got inspired to do this similar setup with Western. And as I said, already the third year is taking place this year. So what this collaboration fund is about, it's really about facilitating and supporting joint initiatives in innovative education and multidisciplinary cutting-edge research, with the aim to create societal impact. And it is very much focused as a seed funding for collaboration that has not started yet or is in the early phase of a collaboration. And therefore, we would like to increase and diversify the initiatives between the two universities and broaden the scope of the collaboration, as all the fields that are present in both universities are eligible to apply for the funding. So faculty members from all faculties at both sides can submit a proposal. I was already saying a little bit that there are the connections already there prior to the fund. If we look at research, a lot of the initial research between the two universities started in the field of brain and mind cognition, with the Brain and Mind Institute at Western and the Donders Institute at Radboud University. The collaborations in that field have already been taking place for very long. And we also see that new initiatives in this field are taking place through the fund, but not only in that specific field, but we see luckily many more fields joining in this collaboration. At the same time, education. So you can choose as an applicant to focus on research, on education and teaching, or a combination of two. And here you see an example of one of Western lecturers, Maria Ferraro, who come with a group of Western students every year to Radboud University in the Netherlands to teach a course in fraud management, but also to allow her students to participate in courses at Radboud University. So this was another example of already prior to the fund existing collaboration between universities. I would also definitely would like to highlight the one opportunity where a joint teaching and education collaboration could take place, and that is our summer school, the Radboud Summer School, that is taking place in the end of June and early July each year. And we see that this is a good opportunity to teach an intensive course in a specific subject together with a Radboud colleague during our summer school. So this could be one of the options for teaching collaboration through the fund. As I said, the third round this year, some statistics, as we often get questions about this, how big is the success rate and how big is this chance to get the funding? In the first two rounds, in total, we had 24 applications, and 11 of the applications were approved, which is a success rate of almost 1 out of 2, which is relatively at the higher end, I've been told. So we hope that this can support you in submitting a proposal. To see some of the examples from the first two rounds, here are the 6 projects that were approved in 2021, of which one you see also on the photo, which is an exhibition by Dr. Frederica Landau and Associate Professor Kirsty Robison, who were working on geography and curating waste. And this outcome of the project was exhibited on the campus in Western University. Here you also see the 2 speakers of today that will share the experiences that they have in their project so far, which are Dr. Anna van Hoogmoed and Professor William Turkel. They will both introduce the impact of the collaboration in their research and teaching. And these are the 5 projects that have been approved in 2022. And again, we see here diversity of backgrounds and topics. And maybe one of your colleagues is part of one of these approved projects. So feel free to contact the person, your colleague, and ask any questions that you may have and get inspired by their experience in the fund. So that's for my presentation so far. I've seen no questions yet in the chat. If there's any question, you can raise your hand. Feel free, I'm happy to answer now, and otherwise later we can also answer your questions.
All right, thanks, Rob. At this point, I'm going to go over the 2023 fund application process and the timelines. So, as Rob had talked about, the Collaboration Fund encourages proposals for 1 year joint projects in the area of research and/or learning and teaching, as well as opportunities for short-term mobility visits. And we're really excited to launch the 3rd year of this collaboration and to continue this work. We are looking typically to fund 6 projects per year and have €100,000 available to support these projects. As Rob had talked about a little bit already, so the projects can be research focused or learning and teaching focused, or a combination of both. For research, we're looking for innovative new collaborations and projects that will create increased access to research facilities. For the learning and teaching, we're looking for improved student experience, innovative learning opportunities, and teaching initiatives. For all of them, really, the criteria is listed there. We're looking for added value, relevance, feasibility, and sustainability. We want to look at the cooperation between both institutions and make sure it's relevant and innovative and of high quality. We're looking for those projects that show sustainability in the long term. And we would encourage you to consider both virtual and in-person activities as you're thinking about your projects. So the project proposals, the eligible costs for funding, you will see you can claim things like travel expenses, seminar, conference or workshops, accommodations and subsistence costs, certain research material and equipment as well. When you are putting together your project proposal, you will be outlining at that time how you anticipate spending the funding that is available. There can be funding for direct research assistance that is approved on a case-by-case basis. And if that is something that you would need to outline that specifically and separately within your proposal as well. The application process. All proposals should be submitted using the application form. Please bear in mind that while your applications will undergo peer review from colleagues within your relevant areas of research, your application will also be assessed by a steering group who may have limited knowledge of your particular field of expertise. And that's where you will see we have asked under our step 1 there that the proposal should be, if possible, written in layman's term, just to help the comprehension of what you're looking to do. If you do need help finding a collaborator, there is a link on our website where you can leave your idea, your field of interest, and your contact information. You can also reach out to the program coordinator for assistance. We try to do a bit of matchmaking between the institutions as well. You will find our email address and the website where you will find the application and the link to leave your information to help find a collaborator at the end of this presentation as well. So the second step is to obtain endorsement. So once your application has been drafted, they must be reviewed and endorsed by your head or the dean of your school research institute at each of the institutions. The last step there is to submit your proposal using the application form, which again is located on our website, which will be provided on the last page of this presentation here. Now, while their applications are jointly completed by the project leads, only one project lead needs to submit the proposal, and they will send that proposal to both the Radboud and Western email addresses. 2 people that do it, 1 person submits it, but they submit it to 2 places. So the proposal criteria, the proposal must address the selection criteria. So that is the added value, the relevance, the feasibility and sustainability, and also include information about the project leads, description of the proposed activity, the background and sustainability of the collaboration, the rationale, and if necessary, a brief letter of support from any additional institution or organization that intends to formally collaborate with you on this project as well. So as I had mentioned previously, that once the proposals have been received, they will be adjudicated and reviewed by a peer review at each institution. And then they will also be reviewed by a steering group who will make the final selection of the project. Selections will be made based on the selection criteria that we've noted, and we also try to attempt to support projects from a variety of academic fields. All applicants will be informed of the results of their proposal by June 12th, 2023. You'll see the timeline here of what to expect. So the applications are open currently, so you can start working on your proposals and get them submitted to us. They will close on April the 3rd. As I had just mentioned, June 12th is when we will let all candidates who have submitted a proposal know of the results. If you are successful, then you are able to start your project right away at that point in time. Okay, so the projects will run until August 31st, and we will ask you to submit in a final report as well by November 1st of 2024. So this is the contact information that I had mentioned. So there are Radboud community members can direct their questions to the email address there, that western@ru.nl. Western community members can direct their questions to radboud@uwo.ca. To learn more, I put the link in there as well. So this is where you will find the application form and the matchmaking information as well, where you can leave information about your project and we will help try to connect you with a researcher. Again, you can also email us and we will help with that too. If you cannot remember the full link, because I know that's difficult, if you can't copy and paste it, what I typically would do is just go to international.uwo.ca and just search Radboud. It will be the first option that comes up for you as well. So we would encourage you to please reach out to us by email if you have any questions. I'll leave that up for another moment, just so you have a chance to write down the contact information. But if anyone has any questions, we're going to start the Q&A portion of this presentation before we turn it over to some project leads to tell us a little bit more about their experience.
Thank you, Cindy. There are already 2 questions in the chat, so we can respond to those first, and then you can add questions in the chat or also raise your hand if that is easier for you. The first question is about who can apply? Who can be a project lead? It's a good question. It needs to be someone with, I believe, a permanent contract, or at least the one that submits the proposal needs to have a permanent contract, so that there is the sustainability for the whole duration of the project. PhD candidates are not eligible for project lead, but they can be part of a consortium together with the two project leads from both sides. And feel free to let me know if you have any follow-up question on this. Then there's a second question by Nika Boradei. I'm sorry if I must pronounce your name incorrectly, and I apologize for that already. If one starts with a research collaboration, would it increase the likelihood of getting first time and subsequent funding if we propose to develop a summer course for a potential second application in the next round? It is possible to submit several applications after a successful first application. The next application needs to be considerably different than the first one, and in this proposal, following first on a research collaboration and then a possible summer course could be possible. This will not necessarily be taken into consideration for the first proposal. It is up to the steering group to interpret the proposal as such, but the sustainability of the project is one of the criteria as just presented by Cindy. So if you have ideas already about transforming the research collaboration into a possible future education collaboration, we highly encourage you to put this in the application so that the steering group committee that selects the projects knows that there is already ideas about the sustainability of the project. Then there are the links also mentioned in the chat directly to the Western website and the Radboud website for all the information in the application form. Then I see one more question. This is about, so this, I think the question was directly sent to me, but I hope I'm okay to address the question in a plenary here. If there is an engineering school or computer science department at Radboud University, similar to Western, Radboud University has 7 faculties in which computer science is located in the science faculty. We don't have an engineering school as such, but talking about computer science, we definitely focus on that in our science faculty. So you could take a look at the website of Radboud University and the science faculty and see at the computer science if there is any match in the content. But otherwise, feel free to drop a message to the email addresses mentioned here, and we can help with matchmaking, or you can include your ID in the online form for Radboud staff members to take a look at. Then there is another question from Cameron Anderson about the typical length of an application. If I understand your question correctly, we indicate per question how many words maximum you can use to answer the question. So if, in that way, if you follow that advice, I think the application will be around 6 pages, 7 pages by mind. What we heard from applicants in the past that actually the application process seems to be rather easy compared to other applications, other proposals that are out there. But in general, it seems to be quite in line with the funding that you could get through the scheme. So there are quite some questions in there, but if you can see for each question how many words to use. I see there's a question from Colin Logie, yeah, Logie. I think there was no session for the Glasgow Radboud Fund um, as such. No, they also have an earlier deadline, I think, but that information you can also see on our website. Then there's a question from Noah Goma about the number of project leads from one institution. And that's very much possible if there are two from Western and one from Radboud or the other way around. That's very much fine. We have seen that in previous applications and also in previous projects that have been granted. So it's really about the logic that is relevant to the project consortium. Shortly, if there's any question for now. Otherwise, feel free to put your questions still in the chat. And at the end of the session, we could take a little bit more time to answer your questions. Because then I think in the meantime, I don't see also a new question for now. Let's hear from two experienced project leads that have been granted funding for their application in 2021. Let's hear from them and their experience. And we'll start with a project lead from Western University. There is Professor William Turkel, a professor in history, and he will share more about his experience so far. William, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so our colleagues at Radboud had already had an initiative called Virtual International Classroom, where teachers from Radboud, from other universities in Germany, Poland, and other places would each teach a course where they invited students from those other universities to join for a project. And so one person might be doing a project on transatlantic cities, and one person might be doing a project on the Black Atlantic and so forth. And within their course, they would have students from each of the other universities working on that one project. And so they initiated, my colleagues at Radboud initiated a contact with Western. They asked if anyone was interested. The matchmaker sent me an email and I said, sure. They wrote the application. I didn't do any work on that part. And so what we've done for the past 2 years is I have taken one of my courses at Western and made one of the course projects be part of this virtual international classroom. In terms of the sort of opportunities, this has been really wonderful. I think that there are going to be a number of research collaborations that actually come out of this teaching collaboration. So it's been great to get to know my colleagues in the EU and to think about things that we might work on together in terms of research, because we obviously have similar interests. In terms of having the students collaborate online with students on the other continent, I think the students have enjoyed it, but there have been a lot of sort of problems in terms of access. One of the problems is that our classes, or at least my classes, have been much larger than the classes in the EU. So I have 50 students and I can't have them working on different projects. My students all have to work on the same project, basically. So that's been one issue. A more significant issue is just the sort of time zone differences and the especially the semester differences. So our semesters at Western don't overlap very well with the semesters at Radboud or the other European universities. Our students have less flexibility in terms of sort of jumping on a Zoom call at any time of the day or night. And our projects have to be handed in, long before their fall term is wrapping up, or our projects have to be handed in before their students, I'm not phrasing this very well, the students in at Radboud and the other European universities work over what we consider to be our winter break. And so that's kind of an issue. So just in terms of practical things, asynchronous communication is quite easy online to have the students do projects together that way, and they quite enjoy that kind of thing. But it's more difficult to schedule things like online meetings or project deadlines or end of term reports and that kind of thing. So that's been our experience with the project.
Thank you very much, William, for sharing your experience in this teaching and education project. And I'm very excited to hear that also research spin-offs are coming from this. It's also great to see that even though you encounter some challenges, you also found some solutions with the asynchronous approach in the virtual collaboration for your students. I will see if there's any question for William based on this. I would just like to add a little bit of context. As you may have seen, these projects were approved in 2021 and we're now in 2023. And this is longer than a year. This is correct. I think that's because, well, I know it is because of the hiccups and the challenges in the beginning of the project when the pandemic was still around. And that's why the 2021 projects were granted an additional year. And normally the projects will take around 1 year. And the 2022 projects also have been granted a 1 year approaching that. For now, I don't see any questions or hands, so thanks again, William. And then I would like to give the floor to Dr. Anne van Hoogmoed. She is an assistant professor at the Behavior Science Institute at Radboud University, and she will tell a little bit more about the experience in a research-oriented project. Anne,
Yes.
the floor is yours.
I made a short presentation, so you can follow along.
Yes, I can see the presentation.
Good, that's good. That's a good start. I was asked by Rob to tell something about how we got the initial contact with the people from Western University, but I told him that it's not probably a typical case because we knew our colleague from Western, Daniel Ansari, already before we started this collaboration. We'd met him previously at conferences and had talked about doing something together previously, but it never started. So we thought this fund was a good way to get things up and running. And what we did is we had a focus on research and on teaching, and we had a focus on more fundamental parts of research and more practice-oriented, as we focused on a different approach to children with learning problems and specifically mathematical learning disability. And we focused partly on a different research approach, but also partly on how to translate what we find in this different research to practice in both countries, to clinical practice. So we took the initiative, but we wrote the application together. And I thought it would be good for people who plan to apply to know a little bit what the committee thought about our proposal. And in their feedback, they said that they would fund it because it's an important topic, and we had seniors and juniors involved. And because what we planned on doing is partly an exchange of PhD students who would gather research experience in the different lab in the other country, and based on that, also write some papers together. We had a focus on long-term collaboration, and well, what was not that clear in our proposal was that what was the added value of both parties. So there was overlap in expertise. So if you plan on collaborating, also think about what the different parties bring to this collaboration. And what we did was that we organized a summer school. Rob already mentioned that there was a possibility for education, but we had a research application, but the summer school is an opportunity to teach students, but it's very broad. So you can either do bachelor courses, master's or yeah, for bachelor's or for master students. But what we did is we asked a lot of internationally known researchers from our field, and we had a summer school for PhD students. So it was quite a small group in which we worked very interactively, and also thought about research together and how we want to, which direction we want the research in this area to go. And we planned the exchange of PhD students, and we also had problems with the COVID situation, because Canada is has been very strict on allowing people in the country. So the exchange of PhD students is still going to happen this spring. So can't tell you anything about that. I think it's going to be successful as well. And based on what we've based on these activities, we want to aim for joint papers and a joint grant application, but also for the relevance for practice, we also want to publish something on popular science platforms, and aim to have a long-term collaboration on collaborative research on clinical practice, where we can learn from the practices in both countries, also for as input for our research. So that's basically my short story.
Thank you, Anna, for your contribution. It was nice to see the photo of the summer school taken at the terrace of our new Maria Montessori building, the social science faculty building that was opened during the pandemic. And great to see that the summer school was an added value for your project as well. Let's see if there's any question from the audience for one of the speakers or in general about the project. Now the time is still there. For the time being, I can only remind that the deadline is the 3rd of April. So we still have about 5 to 6 weeks for submitting the proposals. There's a question from Colin Logie about the project leads, if there's any publication that it led to. Yeah, we can hear from either Anna or William if there's a publication. We don't have it yet from the other projects because the reporting will be done by the end of the year. But let's hear from Anna or William if there's any.
Well, so far we don't have a publication yet, also because the exchange of the PhD students was planned to contribute to a joint paper, and that's become later in time, so they will still visit each other, but we still have plans for a joint paper.
And we did not, because of the COVID travel problems in our year of funding, we haven't actually been able to have our colleagues from Radboud come to Western. They're supposed to come this summer, but one of the things that has come out of it is not a publication per se, but a successfully funded international workshop, which will be bringing many of the people together for research purposes this fall, and which will also then that will lead to a publication kind of indirectly.
Thank you. Great to hear that there are still nice publications to come soon. Let's see if there's any other question coming up still.
If I may add something about one of the other questions of the participants.
Yes, please, Anna.
About who can apply. And by the time we had to hand in the applications, I also didn't have a permanent contract. So actually a professor from our department was on the application as a project lead. But we decided beforehand that as soon as I would get a permanent contract, we would change that into me being a project lead. And that's also a possibility. So.
Yeah, definitely. In that sense, you can be the co-lead together. Yeah, perfect. I see for now no new questions or hands coming up. I would like to thank both Anna and William for your contributions today. They were very much inspiring. I also want to thank Cindy for joining in this co-presentation online. And I would just like to thank everyone for attending in this session. I hope it would be a good opportunity for you, a good possibility for you. And as mentioned, in case you are still searching for a relevant counterpart at the other institution, feel free to drop me or Cindy a message or post a short write-up on the platform that is mentioned on both the websites of Western and Radboud. So yeah, good luck with your applications. We hope to see your applications coming in early April latest. And then I wish everyone a very nice rest of the day.